Thanks for watching this brief video. It's a highlight reel of a recent Traverse Systems webinar, how to add speed and transparency to your unpredictable supply chain. This video features three speakers: Greg Holder, co-founder and CEO at Traverse Systems, Richard Wiljam, Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Traverse Systems, and Kip Kapelke, Sales Engineer at Traverse Systems.
So everybody knows about the pandemic, and certainly not going to spend a lot of time here. But I think what's important to note is that it accelerated trends that were already occurring. What I mean by that is certainly e-com, BOPUS or buy online, pick up in store, curbside, and then of course home delivery. The pandemic, all these events were occurring, but the pandemic really accelerated it. What it led to was a rise in consumer expectations. Something that got at the end of that usually took the end of the week, you were upset that it didn't happen in 2 days. What enterprises are also dealing with is the supply continuum. We went from having not enough to having too much. And certainly everyone knows about the Target scenario where they had to write down $1.5 billion in inventory because they just simply had too much.
Myself and our three other partners were working at a retailer here in the Houston area and anniversarying a very, very manual program, vendor compliance program that we had built to solve some of the problems that Richard had mentioned. And just like what everybody does each year, you try to improve operations year over year. We thought there was a better way from a vendor compliance performance perspective. And we set out on a year-long search to not only look for a vendor compliance solution, but also we were looking for a WMS as well. And what we found was the WMS solutions, that if they even contained part of a compliance program, really focused on the four walls and the distribution center. And didn't get beyond those four walls. And when we looked at EDI, those solutions were really focused only on the EDI solutions, and the transportation really focused on the transportation aspect of it. And our vision of that solution was to go beyond outside of the four walls and to go deeper and wider than anything that we had saw. So we thought we had an opportunity to do something special. And when we actually formed what 22 years ago was Compliance Networks and now is Traverse Systems, we were really very tactical in nature. We really wanted to do just three simple things. We wanted to automate the identification of those supply chain failures. We wanted to automate the calculation of the penalties, and we wanted to automate the communication of those failures to the supplier community. Digging a little bit deeper into each one of those, in order to automate the supply chain failures where we could, we knew we would need data from retail execution systems. So we needed purchase order, what was being ordered. We needed receipt data, what was being received in the distribution centers. We wanted audit information if that existed, but if that didn't exist, we knew we had to build a capability into the application to make it easy for people in the receiving departments or quality departments in a distribution center to identify, capture the event of supply chain failure, and be able to take pictures of that.
And as Greg mentioned, we get a lot of great data, comes from many disparate systems, and in your own organization, it might be difficult to go and find where all that information's at, and you're hitting different resources. And it's nice to have everything kind of consolidated in one location. Our process is really straightforward and pretty simple. As Greg mentioned, just identifying those failures, something that isn't behaving to the requirements that you've set forth and they've agreed upon. Equally as important is communicating very timely and quickly. I think Greg mentioned a couple of times about, adding photographs and making sure that we're communicating, that pretty quickly to your suppliers or your vendors, so that we have time to fix that problem for future orders. The whole ultimate goal here is to remove any supply chain disruptions. So whether it's a forced communication via email or having them have access to the web portal, they can see all of their information at their fingertips whenever it is necessary. And then, having all that information, what are we doing with it? So in my former life, I spent a lot of time working with external vendors and internal, merchant and product development partners to report and analyze that information and ultimately strive to try and improve everybody's process, right? Because you can't sell something that's stuck in a supply chain. So how do we make sure we remove any of those disruptions as much as possible by providing scorecards, different analytics, training, all that good stuff. Customers came back to us, our retail partner said, hey, you're sitting on all this great disparate information. You do a fantastic job of pulling it all together in one-stop shop for the vendor community and our internal business partners. What if you were to start giving us a visibility tool? So, Vision was founded to give that PO level visibility. And, some of the things I think Greg talked about that I'm just going to reiterate because I think it's crazy important is, having that PO level. It's more than just tracking a boat on the water or a truck in motion on the road. Knowing where my product is in the supply chain is important, but equally as important is where are things that should be in my supply chain and they aren't moving yet. Introducing Rivet. Rivet's business process automation solution, really looking, as Richard mentioned, to remove the human element out of it. Some of the folks that I work with regarding the Rivet platform is, talk very highly of standardizing that solution. So, eliminating some of the hours and efforts of people, being able to streamline the process and know that it's going to happen the same way time in and time out.
So just to kind of summarize our presentation today, we've got 3 solutions that we believe add speed and transparency, which everybody knows, to your unpredictable supply chain. Number 1, the platform, on time and in full. That is more important than ever. Do you have inventory coming in? During the course of our travels, we work with quite a few merchants, and they'll tell you, if you just get 2 things right in the supply chain, on time and in full, I can deal with the rest. On Vision, Greg has a saying that I think is pretty appropriate. What didn't happen may be just as important, or if not more important, to what did happen in the supply chain. So certainly we talked about disruptions, and everyone is top of mind. Disruptions is top of mind for everyone. But what about that didn't happen in the supply chain? And what I mean by that was an ASN wasn't received before the ship window is about to close, or the proper routing wasn't received. That's a challenge to supply chain professionals, because at that point they don't know what they don't know, and once they're alerted to that, they can certainly act on it. And finally, with Rivet, I'm going to say what a customer told us that I think is probably most appropriate, is that it added visibility and accountability to processes where none existed before. Again, getting back to our theme of labor shortages, having that visibility and accountability in place so everything runs smoothly is probably more important than ever at this point.
Thanks for watching this brief video. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember, this is part of a larger webinar that is available on demand. If you want to get in touch with Traverse Systems and see all the products that they have to offer, please go to www.traversesystems.com and/or email Barry@traversesystems.com. Thanks again.